Welcome back to a new interview with Elliott Manning, who have been desperate to get on the show. So this is part of the Recruitment 101, which is a new series I introduced. It's a little bit of light-hearted fun. What do you think, Elliott?
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great.
Great. Well, I just thought it'd be a bit of fun. It's about an industry that you and I have been in for several years. I think more than 20 yeyears between us. I think more than 25, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we've got some opinions to have on this, haven't we?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
for sure. So so it's Recruitment 101 for anyone who doesn't know. And I'm Kerri-Ann Hargreaves of H2 Consultancy, and today, as I mentioned, I've got Elliott joining me. Elliott runs his own R2R business, and for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's rec to rec. That's right, isn't it?
exactly it. Yeah.
Exactly it. But I'm going to hand over to Elliott so he can give himself a better introduction, and then we'll dive into what's hopefully going to be a quite fun but informative conversation about Recruitment 101.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, thank you very much. I'm Elliott Manning. I'm the managing director of Cayman Recruitment. We operate out of London and New York and have been going now for about 8 or so years. We're in a position of right now, it's a chaotic market, and I've seen it up and down, and competitive, non-competitive, crazy kind of industry that we're in. And I've got lots of different views and opinions on the space that I've been in now for nearly 14, 15 years. So I've seen it from different angles, different perceptions. I've seen it from a candidate, client, all parties. So look forward to sharing some insights with you.
Lovely. And you know what, I'm going to pick up on the fact that we do some recruitment in New York. Surely we should do a podcast from New York one week. That would be interesting.
That would be absolutely brilliant. There's not enough over there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to America, I have to say, when everything's settled down a little bit more, but I miss travel, and America's on the list. We should have gone to America last year for a family holiday, and I'm missing the thought of being in the States.
I stare at the news every day with the hope that we're allowed to get back out there again. I'd love to see my guys there. I've hired people I've never met, and it's so I'd say frustrating, but it's also quite it's worrying to the point of when am I going to see what we're doing over in the States properly? And it's also it's just been a very much of a virtual kind of culture over there, so it's not ideal. But I absolutely love the States. I think it's amazing. It's a very different market to over London, to the UK and London that we deal with. So it's nice to mix it up, and see something different.
And I think that would actually be a great conversation another time, actually, is the differences in the markets depending on what country you're recruiting in, because we're UK wide only. I've never recruited across the water. That would be a good conversation. So I'm going to park that for next time, if that's all right.
Yeah, definitely. Love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, but no, so we're going to dive in here. We're going to dive into Recruitment 101. Do I put a spin on it as from a rec to rec perspective? Because you specifically recruit in that market, don't you? And but I actually think that you're probably going to raise something here that's valid across recruitment as an industry anyway.
I think it's valid, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. So it's not specific, but Recruitment 101. So let's kick in then. So what's the main bugbear you have? Do we call it a pet hate, of the recruitment industry?
So I'm going to say right now, and it was a topic I was talking about yesterday on my own LinkedIn, and I just put out there to the industry, was about the fact that there's too much work in the industry and the markets across all areas, not in just recruitment, but across every sector, that there's so many options for candidates out there. And it's making it I feel like people are making the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons about taking certain jobs and going certain places. And again, this is a cross sector. I've spoken to so many clients even that are in tech, healthcare, life sciences, and they're finding it with their candidates in their markets, it's the same problem. And it's the only way. You can't really manage it. It's kind of out of control, and it's something that's really bothering us, because we've got we can't get around it as much as we would like.
So this is around candidate control.
And you've really got to kind of exactly that, candidate control and problems around that, and the chaos that there is at the minute.
we're definitely seeing here increased competition in terms of like candidates interviewing for multiple roles, getting offers for multiple roles, not always perhaps doing their research or listening to an impartial party on the place that they're considering. You know, I find that really frustrating, because sometimes you see a candidate taking an offer and you just want to actually hold them and say, I need you to look into this business a little further. Yeah.
We've had that every day at the moment, you know. It could be a few grand on the salary. It could be about, look, you know, there's a bigger picture here than you're looking at the short term. And you could look at, like, there's so many different elements that we're facing at the moment. And it's just a point of, it's got to a point where not only I'm seeing it, but a lot of other businesses. And it's like, people need to like really get a grasp of this at the minute somehow. And it's just too much going on. You know, candidates need to really kind of take the advice that we try and give them without thinking that we're just recruiters and we're sort of all about sales.
I think that's the tough one, isn't it? It's because sadly there's a massive perception out there that we're only in it, dare I say it on this video interview, but that recruiters are only in it for a fee, and that is far from the truth, especially for my business, you know. And it is for a lot of recruiters. I don't think they're in it for a fee. Obviously we're in the business to make money, of course we are. There's a margin to be had, there's a cost for the service that we provide, but I'm actually in it because I love what I do, and I love giving the advice and
so do I.
That it's like piecing those, it's the jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Piecing people together. And I still remember so I think that's a valid point, as in take the advice that us recruiters have actually got to give.
It's a big subject. It's something that we're talking about a lot at the minute. How can we get the right message across, and how can we get people to listen to us for the right reasons, not because they think that we want to I suppose, make a placement. You know, I say to a lot of candidates, don't, whether you go to my option or not, just take my advice and just listen to my experience of what I'm saying, and I'm trying to do it for the right reasons as well. You know, and it's just something I really kind of, I'd love to say, I just hate at the minute is just the chaos that's out there, and people trying to get jobs and people overselling and making promises they can't keep. And, you know, it's a real problem I think that we're having and seeing in the market across every industry. But we're here for a reason as recruiters.
And do you know what? I think there's, in the recruitment industry alone, and you've probably experienced it in your career, how many times have we been oversold to by an MD of a recruitment business or a recruitment manager that you're going to be working for? You've been oversold, you've been promised different benefits or a different career path. You join the business and it isn't realised, you know, or the culture isn't what you expect it to be because of how you've been sold. And I think there is a lot of desperation out there at the moment for people to win.
Too much, way too much. And there's an element of like, I get it and I understand, you know, we've coming out of a pandemic, and there's been an open market. Probably people have been, you know, lost their jobs, and, you know, people are in a desperate state in some instances that it just sounds amazing that they kind of, but they're not doing their due diligence. And it's like, do the research, take the advice from us, you know, and try and make sure that you look at the long term, not just the short term, because you can't afford in most cases, if you're looking for a job, to keep hopping from one to the next just because you've made a bad decision.
And do you know what?
So it's a big thing. That's a big,
It is. It's a massive thing, isn't it? And that would be something I would put in room 101, which is add on to what you've just said. That'll be for another one, I reckon. And that would be recruiters that do job hop. And it partly that's because they haven't done the due diligence. So you'll end up falling into
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm with you on this. I think I'm going to cut, it's kind of candidate control, but it's also listening to the advice that we're giving. You know, don't discount what we're saying. Yeah,
I guess so. You know, I mean, I think the element the main element on this is that, like, it's just becoming very hard to make sure that we control the candidates at the minute because of these reasons. You know, that's why I brought that up.
That's going in room 101, Elliott. 100%. That's going, definitely. So what's next? What's next on
the
your
other one is something that came up today, which is reviews and Glassdoor reviews and just reviews in general on businesses. And it's like, I had to, like, and I hope they're not listening, you know, but I had to educate someone, you know, this morning that these reviews, these Glassdoor things that we're kind of having to manage and deal with are nonsense. I'm going to be honest, it's just not like, don't listen to it, don't look at it. I mean, I guess that like in the recruitment industry, I can only mainly speak of for now in this instance, is that a lot of people leave recruitment companies. It's a natural thing. It's a sales environment. It's sometimes a churning business, right? But they're not going to necessarily say the best things if they've been removed from the business for whatever reason, dismissed, etc. So they're the ones that are leaving the reviews. If a company has their existing staff leaving reviews on their business and they're currently still working there, it's not necessarily like, you could kind of look at it in two ways. They've been told to do it, or they're doing it because it sheds good light on the business. But I can guarantee when that person potentially leaves, they're not going to have the same, perception of that company. And these Glassdoor reviews are not doing the industry any favors, not even just for recruiters. There's candidates that are looking for jobs across industries, looking to work with the right recruitment companies, looking at reviews and then saying that they're cowboys, I can't work with them, or they've got a really bad culture, they're not going to be able to help me, I don't like that sound of them. Like, it's just crazy, and it needs to be, we need to get rid of it. It's just not doing us any help.
I'm a huge believer in the fact that the Glassdoor reviews, I just don't think they can be used as part of, a referencing process at all as to whether or not you should go there. You're right. Most people, even in industry that we work in, obviously, which is all manner of businesses, most people leave a review when they exit the business, and it's not ordinarily because they've exited on a positive note. Something negative has happened, they've been dismissed, their time has come to an end, but it's not happened positively. They've been made redundant. Can you imagine reviews over the last 12 months from people that have been made redundant in the pandemic?
I've seen them. I've seen them all, and it's just like, are you really going to look at that and take note of how that person's felt and reacted and think that that's a bad company because of that? Exactly. Like, it's silly. I'm going to be honest, it's silly behavior, but also it's very detrimental to a lot of, not just the business, but the owners of the business, the people that are working in that business. And it doesn't realize there's a massive knock-on effect to people as well, that not just the company reputation, there's people that work there that are going to suffer because of it. And it doesn't help anybody. And
I think worse as well is that you mentioned it, people who are currently working in the business have probably been forced to add in a positive review because there's too many negatives on there. So you're just not getting a clear picture. There's better places you can go to. So I always say to any client that's coming to work with us, go and look on LinkedIn at some of the reviews or testimonials that our clients and candidates have given us. Most of them give them to us by choice, or look on Google, because people just give them to us on Google, and Google might be contentious as well, like Glassdoor, but we don't ask people to do these. They leave them in support of how we've helped them. And it's very balanced. It's not always people that we've secured an opportunity for or recruited for, but we've gone through a process with them. I would rather give a candidate that's coming to work for me as a recruiter a list of 10 clients and say, go and chat to the FD. And ask them what we've done for them, how we handle ourselves, and I think that would be a better way. I just don't think you can use Glassdoor as part of your research into whether a business is the right one to work.
It's difficult. And it's very difficult. But as you're saying this, I'm looking at, like, if I go to book a hotel for a holiday, I will look at the reviews. You will. You can't help it. But I guess from a review standpoint, it really, in my opinion, should be good for some industries and not so good for the others. I don't know why and how that would make sense. It just kind of needs to change.
So I think the reality there, Elliott, is that recruitment, as you said, is very much a sales industry. So there's always going to be coming and going. I'm very fortunate that I've had, long-standing roles within businesses, but you will always find a business that has churn in one area or at a certain level, So I just don't think Glassdoor is the right place. I think you should be looking in other areas. You should be looking to gain your own opinion. But you are right. We all go to review sites when we're booking a hotel or a holiday. But I have to say, I don't just go to one place. I'd go to 2 or 3.
100%.
And I'd be looking on their Facebook page as well. I wouldn't just be looking at LinkedIn or just Glassdoor. No, I don't think it's balanced.
But another thing on LinkedIn I mentioned to a lot of candidates is go and have a look at how long a lot of the staff have been there in some cases. And there's a reason why they've got the longevity and stability, and you know, that's something that's also very key to make sure of, but also have a look at how long they've been going for as well.
Yeah.
You know, if they've not been going long enough, like, you know, there's just so many different elements they can take into consideration when it comes to it.
That's it. Look at the background of the people that you're going to be working for and with, because you want to work with the right team as well, don't you? And you're not going to get that from a Glassdoor review. You're just going to get a very, sadly, negative individual that hasn't had a positive experience. So I think you need to be, I'm going to say you're right. It is a silly way of reviewing whether you should consider a job with that business. I think you need to be more considered in your approach to getting a reference.
Exactly that.
You know.
Fine.
So that's going in room 101. I'm with you. Glassdoor reviews in the bin, right? So we've got time for one more.
Last one.
What are you going to shock me with?
Touchy subject: arrogant recruitment companies.
Oh wow!
And I'll have to be very careful how I put this.
Okay, so sensitive. This is sensitive. Okay.
There's a lot of businesses out there, and I guess this is just really talking as you know, I've done before with about my industry, what I deal with, the rec to rec aspect of it. And there's a lot of businesses that have built themselves up on a bad reputation, but also they kind of perceive themselves to be a company that you wouldn't want to go and work for because they've got some sort of element of arrogance about them.
Okay.
And one thing I want to share, I guess more importantly, is that when you're interviewing somebody and, you know, they're in that business, whether they're good for the company or not, give them the best impression ever. Because if they're not good for your business and they can't interview and they don't want to work for you for whatever reason, because something's better, as long as they've got good things to say, you know, they've gone to see their friend or their colleague or someone that's looking and they're like, look, I didn't go there, but they're an unbelievable business. They've got a fantastic this, that, the other. They need to try and make sure that they present that in every case and every scenario, because if they don't and they like, you know, well, we was only with her for 10 minutes, they're no good for it. Like the arrogance of how they, you know, are going to perceive themselves is really, there is again a knock-on effect. And
absolutely
just so tired of businesses kind of, you know, I'm always sort of slipping up on that, you know, interview process without realizing the bigger picture here.
Oh God, you're right, and we have it in our industry as well, but I think it's true of recruitment. I've interviewed with a few over the years, you know, and I think you want to have someone leaving the door thinking, I want to work with that person or with that business because they match my values, they've got a good training plan, they look like they're upfront and honest, they're not arrogant, because there's nothing worse than an arrogant recruiter or an arrogant business owner, you know.
100%.
I definitely have come across a few arrogant recruiters and a few arrogant recruitment business owners over the time. And that's why I don't work for them. It's why I've got my own business, because I want to do it right.
Yeah, of course.
An opinion is so important, but setting a precedent in the interview where someone might leave and think, couldn't work for him, couldn't work for her, just got a wrong vibe. And we're all going to make an opinion, aren't we? But arrogance, it's a massive trait of recruiters in our industry, isn't it? And it comes from somewhere. Yeah, it comes from the top down, doesn't it, I find?
Yeah, but you've got to look at it like, what if that person interviews at that one company and then they go to a new firm and they're hiring, or they become a hiring manager and they're like, you know, who have I met in the past that I like and I've been to and I've seen, or, you know, who do I want to, I suppose, go and work for again or interview with if I've, you know, this hasn't worked out. You know, don't burn the bridges, don't create an arrogant president for the business, and make sure that you shed the best of light on who you are, so that that story can always be told no matter what, to anyone and everybody that they kind of meet and go on to talk to.
Well, you know what it's like, Elliott, if you have a good experience, you probably only go home and tell your wife or your husband.
100%.
If you have a bad experience, you tell everybody that you come into contact with for the next few weeks, don't you? And
we love to share it.
Yeah, you share it. And if you're in recruitment, we all talk to other recruiters, don't we? So we'll share that. And I think there's a lesson that can be taken away from this point, though, and that's, as a recruitment business owner, you need to carefully choose the person that's interviewing in your business. Because if you choose the wrong person that perhaps is arrogant, and maybe that's a good trait in some areas of recruitment, I don't think it is, but
maybe a bit of good arrogance here and there doesn't hurt, but I guess you've got to use it in the right way, I think, and not necessarily in an interview either, unless
No.
you're,
Yeah.
it's hard to place it.
Yeah, it is hard to place it, and it's hard to remove it entirely, because we know there's perhaps an element of that that's required in terms of some skill as being a good recruiter, but I've never felt that being arrogant is a good trait of a recruiter, if I'm honest.
No, of course, but this is so relevant to other industries. You know, when you've been to one, and I don't know why I'm using this example, but one life science company, you know, you go and work for them and you've had a bad experience, the interview was horrible, the guy interviewing you was just
elsewhere, aren't you? Yeah.
You're going to go to their competitor, you're going to talk to everyone that works there about the negative experience that you've had because of the horrible person you've met and the arrogance, and they're not even going to really have a good opinion on it. It's not going to share any positivity for anyone. So they're kind of like, again, think of that bigger picture and that knock-on effect, and you know how far that can go.
Yeah, because you know, I don't think arrogance brings people in. It doesn't make people want to work for you. They want to work for humans, don't they? They want to work for someone that they can build a rapport with and into, and that's a very difficult trait to build a rapport with, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So I agree. Arrogant, should we say recruitment companies? Because I think it comes from within a business.
Let's do it. Yeah, recruitment companies. Yeah,
recruitment companies, and I think they need to go in room 101. We don't need that negative space, do we? You know,
not at all, not ever. But we still.
I'm in full agreement with you. Whereas the last interview I did, I didn't fully agree with all 3 points. So you know, you're doing all right here, Elliott.
Good.
You know?
I'm pleased. I've got loads more, but we haven't got enough time.
We haven't, no. But I think we saved that for the next time. We saved that for another 3 months, I think, to see if the market's settled for you. And if we've seen the balance return, where people aren't fighting for every candidate on the market and therefore making mistakes, whether client or candidate. I think let's see if that settles. So I think I need to invite you back.
I'm more than happy to. As I said at the beginning, I've got loads of gossip and things that I can share with anyone listening in.
Yeah, and I could absolutely relate all of these to the work that we do here, which obviously is for industry rather than say just recruitment businesses. So what you've said is so valid, and hopefully someone takes something away from it and actually checks themselves as to how they position themselves next time round, whether interviewing or bringing someone into their business. So yeah, thanks for that. That's great. So that was fantastic. A successful room 101, I think.